Do you want a free chance at $500? Run Your Pool is giving away $1,000 worth of cash prizes to anyone that finishes in the top 5 of our Stay Hot March Madness bracket. And first place is walking away with the $500 prize. Right now, as I'm recording this, there's only about 60 total entries, so your odds are honestly pretty good at making some money. Just head on over to play.runyourpool.com/stayhot and make your entry before Thursday, March 16th. That's a Thursday, March 16th deadline. And again, that's play.runyourpool.com/stayhot. Run Your Pool, the home of competition.
What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponauer and Theo Ash. And today we are joined by a very, very special guest. Welcome back. You all know him as Elite Takes, our good friend Nico, to be our college basketball expert for the day. As we're going to talk a little bit about March Madness with Selection Sunday happening. And we didn't plan this. The Dolphins made a huge splash going after Jalen Ramsey, so we're going to talk about that trade as well. And we haven't really talked about the Panthers-Bears trade either, so we're going to get a little bit of everything in this episode. Should be a great one. Before we get into that, Nico, welcome back. It's been a while. How have you been?
Oh, I'm doing great. I mean, just kind of enjoying the ride of the NFL offseason and college basketball right now.
That's great, man. Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing? I always have to check in on my boys here.
I'm good. I'm up in Portland, Oregon right now on a vacation. And anytime we tell anybody from Portland that we're on vacation here, they're like, why? But it's a great town. I think that you walk around and there's definitely some problems with Portland. There's like a bit of a homelessness crisis going on, and it's a bit dirty. But what that does do is, I think, make everybody who lives here kind of band together. It's a very like community oriented town, and everyone here has been super, super nice. And we went to Portland Timbers game yesterday for an MLS game, and that was really electric. Like, that was really, really cool. And I didn't expect it to be quite a 100% packed house with full chants the whole game and drums and everything, but that's totally what it was. And that was pretty cool. So I've been having a good time up in Portland.
All right. I'm sure the Portland people wouldn't expect that. It's like going on vacation in Ohio. I can imagine.
Yeah, it's not nearly that bad, but especially for spring break, usually people go somewhere like sunny and warm, and we're here and it's like 40 and it's raining, which is the exact same temperature and weather that it is where we left, which was Flagstaff. But
it snowed today in Ohio, so if that has any indication.
Only in Ohio would it snow in March.
Yeah, the most warmest day in Ohio.
Global warming, but it's cold outside.
Average Ohio resident. That's what the average Ohio resident would say.
Anyway, let's talk about some football. Nico, I got to get your initial thoughts. What was going through your head? You're seeing Dolphins are talking to trade for Jalen Ramsey, and then was it like 7 minutes later, Dolphins have the package for Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah, I mean, I was just eating some lunch actually, and I see all these people like on Twitter like at Elite Takes, like just a bunch of people tagging me in something. I was like, oh, I know something's up, and to be honest, I think this is something I was not going to be surprised by, because I remember when the Jalen Ramsey trade rumors first started, I was like, well, Chris Greer with our need for cornerback and all of his aggressive moves lately, and all of a sudden you see this week he's restructuring all these contracts. I kind of had a feeling that he was about to strike something big. I more so expected it to be free agency, but I kind of started to believe that our offseason was going to be more eventful than the resources that we have currently would make you feel. So yeah, it was really, I really thought that, if we were to get Ramsey, it would probably mean Byron Jones is on the way out. So I feel like there were a lot of hints throughout the last couple weeks or so that something like this could happen. So I wasn't too shocked, but certainly excited.
Yeah,
I was shocked he went for so little.
That is what shocked me.
A third round pick. Yeah,
I'm not shocked he went for that little. The Rams needed to move. The Rams need to move off money and like maybe a third round pick and like a backup tight end. You don't think they?
It's the NFC, dude. Like, they could have, a healthy Rams team could have literally made noise in the NFC. Like, I get it that it's probably not a Super Bowl window for them, but if it's the Jalen Ramsey market and all I'm getting back is a third round pick, like, I'm sorry, I'm running it back with Kupp and Stafford and Ramsey and like seeing what could happen. Like, who knows? Who knows what could happen? Maybe it goes a little bit better. Like, I would have kept Ramsey instead of trading him away for a third round pick. And the backup tight end, like Hunter Long, I don't understand why he was like sought after in this deal. Like, we're like,
you don't have
not
to
a 7th round pick, not a 6th round pick. Like Hunter Long, I was a little bit confused to see that was such a random ass part of the trade.
That was really
another good starter. They must have really liked him or something, like when they scouted him out of Boston College, but
maybe
he's way better than everyone thinks. I will be drafting Hunter Long in the first round in fantasy.
Oh yeah. I mean, they talk about the capital invested there. That's an indication of future usage.
Obviously. I don't know. I still think like the team was awful last year, and you can point to injuries and Stafford being out, but like, I don't know, man. It's just like, who else on that team is making? It's literally like those guys. It's like Stafford, Donald, Ramsey, Kupp. Who else on that team is even like competent at this point?
No one, but that's enough in the NFC. It might be enough in the NFC. Like, I'm just not trading him for a third round pick. I'm sorry. Like, this is still, in my opinion, a top 5 corner in the league. I'm just shocked that no one else stepped up to the plate. And I get that the Dolphins are guaranteeing his contract for the next 2 years, and I get that they wanted to trade him out of the NFC, but I don't know. I'm just really shocked that no other team would fork over a 2nd round pick. I mean, I trade a 1st round pick. It's Jalen Ramsey. He's still really good. I get that he got burned a couple times this year. It happens with corners. I didn't notice like a drop off in athleticism or like a drop off in, you know, like, oh, he's washed. He fell off a cliff. Like, he's 29. He's still pretty good and still can be for the next couple of years.
And stuff can happen quickly, though, those fall-offs. And I wonder if maybe they don't trust Stafford's health. If you don't trust Stafford's health, then things are going to be
the news just came. The news just came that they're trying to trade Stafford, so that could definitely be true.
I don't know. I think their roster is pretty far away. I mean, even with a healthy Stafford, you know, Stafford, Kupp, Donald, Ramsey, I get it. But the peak on that team, like, yeah, the NFC's bad and you could win 9 games and lose in the first round of the playoffs, but it wouldn't be a bad year to be bad, you know? So I kind of don't blame them for pivoting in that direction when I think the ceiling on this team, not only this year, but long-term, is pretty low.
I also wonder, like, if Ramsey had any power in making this happen, because he was like ranting on Twitter about how I've been praying for this for months. So I wonder if there was some sort of like, we want to do right by him move. Like, remember when the Texans released JJ Watt? I mean, obviously that's different, but that sort of dynamic in getting them get a lower than expected return.
Yeah. I mean, I have a hard time believing that the highest offer they could have possibly gotten was a 3rd round pick. I do wonder if Ramsey's motivation sort of played into that, or if that was just straight up the best that they got. But it is crazy to see a Rams team that was willing to trade multiple 1st rounders for Brian Burns go from that.
We always go back to this.
Yeah, go from that to we're blowing the team up in like 6 months is crazy. I'm not even talking about it from the Panthers side. From the Rams side, that's a crazy turnaround.
What is up, hotties? If you love good food like I do, you gotta check out HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why, of course, it's America's #1 meal kit. Look, living on a college student's budget can make it feel like you've got to dig in your pockets for a quality meal these days. With grocery store prices rising every single day, now is the perfect time to get started with HelloFresh. It's way cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. And whatever you do, don't let professors piling assignments on your plate prevent you from eating like a king. With pre-portioned ingredients, foolproof recipes, and convenient doorstep delivery, cooking with HelloFresh is easier than a Nick Chubb touchdown. Listen, I keep saying, I'm going to learn how to cook this, I'm going to learn how to cook that, but HelloFresh just makes it so easy, I never have to. So make sure you go to HelloFresh.com/StayHot60 and use the code StayHot60 to get 60% off your order plus free shipping. Again, that is HelloFresh.com/StayHot60 and use the code StayHot60 for 60% off plus free shipping on HelloFresh, America's and Stay Hot's #1 meal kit.
Nico, what are your expectations for the Dolphins next year then? Because you look around this roster and I think it's pretty good. But, how much faith do you have in Tua and the injuries and everything? But you're looking at the roster now and you're saying, is it Super Bowl time right now? Or are we happy just, winning a playoff game? Or what are your expectations that would make it a successful season in your eyes?
I mean, I think that at this point, our ceiling is probably dark horse Super Bowl contender. And what I would like to see is obviously to win a playoff game, but I really do not think that winning the AFC East is out of the realm of possibility, because I was looking at the roster and I was like, man, we really struggled this year to defend the pass because Xavier Howard had such a down year. And, Kader Kohu is good, but for where we got him, but he's not, step up and guard Jamar Chase one-on-one good or anything of that nature. So I think this kind of was one of the final missing puzzle pieces. And then our other needs are like linebacker and running back, which are much more obtainable in offensive line. But yeah, I think the roster is really, really good right now.
I guess if you were to put a round of the playoffs, like if we make it to this round, I'm relatively happy. What round exactly would that be?
AFC Championship.
Okay.
I think that would leave me satisfied if we were to make it. I
think that's fair.
I think that's pretty valid because they just picked up Tua's 5th-year option. So if you're a game away from the Super Bowl and Tua's coming back, you'd probably be pretty excited. The window,
yeah, definitely
went forward for another year. And how do you feel about that move? Like extending Tua's 5th-year option, not pursuing Lamar Jackson. Do you think there were upgrades out there to be made, or are you pretty happy with Tua after the progress that he made last year?
I mean, I think that Lamar was probably not going to be possible, even though obviously I would view him as an upgrade. I just don't think we were one of the teams in this state after the Bradley Chubb trade, especially, to go and make that move. Like, I remember when the Bradley Chubb trade happened, I was like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this now that we've traded a first and, given him this big payday. So yeah, I really do think that we should give Tua another year. And I think the worst thing we could have done is both not extending him and not picking up his 5th-year option. I think you had to go ahead and do one or the other this offseason. And I respect going with the more conservative route of just picking up that 5th-year option.
Yeah, especially with the concussion concerns.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the big thing, I think, for him. But as far as, Matt, if we want to get into your Panthers and trading up to the #1 pick, I think you mostly have to be in the realm of like, yeah, we're getting a quarterback, and that's all that matters.
I'm incredibly excited about it. It's an awesome move for the Panthers. I mean, to say that they shouldn't have done it, I mean, I don't know what people want for them not to get a quarterback. How many years in a row have I said the Panthers aren't good because they don't have a quarterback? And it's just that simple.
It's been Teddy Bridgewater, the remains of Cam Newton, PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it's been bad. Making a move like this makes me feel like they're on the path to being a more serious team. And a lot of the negativity that people have said about it comes from a ridiculously short-sighted viewpoint of, well, if DJ Moore's not there, then your receivers aren't good right now, so therefore bad pick. But, just because we don't maybe have our number one receiver on the roster right now doesn't mean that we don't need to go get our number one quarterback. And if trading the receiver one is what it takes, then that's what it takes. Because I kind of get from like maybe a fan standpoint too of like, oh, well, you could have traded to 3 and you still would have gotten a quarterback. But that's not how it works in an NFL front office. It's not just like, well, let's just see whichever guy falls to us. You got to go up and make sure that you're getting the guy that you want. And if the Panthers were just willing to accept whoever, that would make me relatively nervous in how confident they were in the guy that they were getting. For me, I mean, I think this year, on top of all this, free agency and the draft hasn't happened yet. So judging the roster makes no sense. They're going to go and they're going to pick up some guys who can play to some extent. They're not going to go get a number one receiver unless like a T. Higgins becomes available. But even then, they'll probably have like McCole Hardman, Terrence Marshall Jr., and who knows who else. And it'll be okay. You'll see what those guys have. And then you'll go and try to add a number one receiver from there. But me, I'm pretty pumped about it. I'm glad they're getting a quarterback.
Yeah, the wide receiver position is one where you found a bunch of successful guys in the middle of the second, middle of the third round. Like it's probably the most talent rich position coming out of college of all the positions in the league. And people say, running backs don't matter or whatever. And maybe from a high end value standpoint, that could be true. But wide receivers, they matter a lot from like a high end value and what a really good one brings to the team. But there's also a lot of good ones to be found. I mean, even Terrace Marshall, he was straight up not playing last year and then he balled out towards the end of this year. Like it's possible to find these guys on the margins, I think. So I get that the supply of them is high. I don't know how I feel about it. I think we could look back on this Panthers class and say, or the last calendar year for Carolina, and they maybe turned down 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns and then gave away 2 for, the number 1 overall pick. And now they're like, well, there's a bunch of guys that we really like and think are worthy of the number 1 overall pick. And it's like, well, if you're saying that, and maybe that's not true at all. But then you could have kept DJ Moore and traded to 3 and still got a guy you have in that tier 1. If you think of all these guys as being about the same right now. And we don't know what they really think. It's a pretty steep price, but they would have been frozen out at 9. They really would. They just straight up would have been. So they had to trade up somewhere, and maybe the Cardinals said no, or maybe they like the Bears offer more. I don't know. I don't know what the whole thing was. You would think if if their actions say we're trading to 1 and their words say we like them all, the actions is probably the truth, which is they've probably settled on a guy that they like right now, and they're just saying other things for who knows what reason.
Theo, in our mock, you had the Bucks trading up for 19 with basically this exact same package. It was a first, or it was 2 firsts, a third, a second, and Godwin. Except I think you took out the third at the last second.
I think it was 2 firsts, 2 seconds in Godwin, and then this trade was 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and more. So I literally think it was the same trade, which is reflects poorly on me because my Bucks trade offer was too small, which the comments were right about. That video.
But that's the thing is like you get to this point, it's like, well, they got what they wanted. The Bears did, and they got a receiver for Fields, which was big, right? And then they're going to have assets to work around for the future. So I think everyone really wins. This is not like, oh, so-and-so got fleeced type of trade. Like both teams, I think, are going to come out with what they want.
I think that it makes total sense for them to trade up for the number 1 overall pick, even if they don't know who they want. They have to get a quarterback. Why would they wait to get to 1?
Because you don't have to give up DJ Moore. Maybe.
How do you know that though? What if somebody else does it? Now you're looking at the Raiders and you're saying, oh, they're mega screwed. And if you wait for somebody else to trade up to 1, all of a sudden that Cardinals pick becomes more expensive. Pardon the pun. But I think trading up to 1 and securing that now is perfectly fine. It sucks that we gave up Moore. He's one of my favorite players, but I am totally on board with them going ahead and getting this over with and being aggressive about it because they need to be. And to be completely honest, I think that I don't think the price was that steep, all things considered. You're trading up to number 1 overall, you know? I mean, Jesus, like Trey Lance, you know, they move up to 4. What'd the 49ers give up to get him? 3 1s? Or like, I mean, the Bears gave up multiple firsts to go get Justin Fields. But when they did that, nobody was sitting there saying, oh, yeah, but the receivers aren't good, so that's a horrible trade. How can you have a quarterback if you don't already have great receivers? They're saying, yeah, go get your quarterback and you can figure out the receivers later, just like they did, or just like the Bills did, or just like plenty of other teams have. So I really like it. I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point because coming into this offseason, I was thinking, you know, 2 things where I'm like, where can the league get better? What can teams do in their best interest? And I was thinking the Bears should go get Justin Fields, a receiver. The Panthers should go and secure their quarterback after building this super team of a coaching staff. And when you get a trade that has accomplished 2 very good things in terms of a team building standpoint, I think you have to view it as a win-win. And I also think like you can rebuild this wide receiver core easier than people expect. Like, what if the Panthers were to go out and ship like a 4th round pick for Brandon Cooks and draft like Xavier Hutchinson in the 3rd? All of a sudden, you're thinking that's serviceable. So that's the way I see it.
It's not that far off, and really the entire people are just laser focused in on the weapons, which admittedly are bad.
It's too
right
short-sighted.
now. They're the worst.
I agree.
They're the worst I've seen any team have in a long time. Granted, before free agency.
It's not going to end that way. No chance.
You had Jacoby Myers. That's like all of a sudden you're not looking so bad, and you have a good offensive line too. Like
that's the other thing is that the rest of the Panthers have a lot of the core pieces in place. I'd get it if the Panthers were a completely washed roster outside of quarterback, and it's too much to make up. The offensive line is totally in place and young. Right, the coaching staff is fantastic. They've got edge one. They've got a great defensive tackle. They've got cornerback one. They've got a lot of pieces there. So I don't even think they're that far off, and I think they're going to be competitive in a terrible NFC South this year.
Plus, people are underrating how good Terrace Marshall Jr. is. Don't care. I scouted that guy at LSU. He ruled. Don't.
Oh yeah.
He didn't go to Baylor, so Matt Rule didn't want to play him. And then when he played this year, he was dunking on everybody,
evil,
breaking tackles, 10 yards per target with a terrible quarterback situation. Terrace Marshall Jr. is not some nobody, and I pray for some of my old takes and tweets that he, this is a vote of confidence in him too, that, obviously you felt a little bit okay about your receiving core if you're shipping off DJ Moore. So I'm hoping for a breakout year from Terrace Marshall. You saw what he could do. What team was it against where he caught some pass way down the field and then broke like 6 tackles and got at the end of a game.
I know what player you're talking about. I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about.
Someone out there just Google Terrace Marshall Jr. on Twitter, and then there'll be like Center and House of Highlights that'll be the number 1 clip that you see. Or just do it the old fashioned way.
He's not even 23 yet, too. He's really young. He's going to ball out next year. He's going to ball out. He's better than DJ Moore.
There we go. He's the best wide receiver to ever come out of LSU. Watch the tape and see for yourself. But as for the Bears, I mean, you got to say the Bears, I think, won the deal just because there's so much less risk involved, I think, for them. Like with the Panthers, like, man, it's a lot. Man, you gave up DJ Moore. Like, man, you're hoping that you can even just get a competent quarterback out of this. The Bears, we knew all along what they needed to do. They need to fill out more pieces on their roster more than they need a 1-star, and they needed a wide receiver more than anything because they've been trying to make Justin Fields play on extremely difficult mode for 2 years. So yeah, I think like it definitely checks every single box for the Bears, but for the Panthers, there's a lot of risk involved, but I would say that the Bears like won the deal on day one.
Yeah. And you got to trust the people in charge for Carolina. Like, I think that's the main thing is this isn't some unserious front office that's done a bunch of unserious stuff going up and just making this delusional move. I think you have to really trust the people behind the Panthers right now and their scouting of the quarterbacks in this draft.
I agree. I like their head coach. I think he knows what he's doing. I like their whole coaching staff. I like Fitterer, at least as far as the draft goes, especially if you give him a little bit of extra credit for the fact that, you know, he had a year where he went Terrace Marshall and Brady Christensen, and then Matt Rule didn't let either of those guys play. And then when he left, they both started playing well. So I think that was a good draft, but I guess we haven't seen enough games yet. But yeah, I think the Panthers are the most serious, at least they've been in the last 5 years.
It's not saying much.
Very low bar.
But I'm almost no matter what they do, I'm going to be the most excited I've been for Panthers game one in a long time. So
that's the most important thing.
That really is.
You can't lose the interest of the fans, right?
Got to keep me interested.
You got to keep Matthew Spanauer invested at all times.
I'm sure that's the big reason they traded up right there.
We're losing him.
We've got to get him back.
We're losing him.
I need 50 cc's.
Why do you think they brought back
cc's
Cam,
of CJ Stroud?
Matt's been talking a little too good about the Bengals over the past couple of years.
I have. I've been saying horrible things about the Panthers too.
Bro lives in Cincinnati.
Speaking of Stroud, are we all aligned that that's who they traded up for?
Yes.
I think they
Probably.
don't know. They don't know.
You truly think they don't know at all?
There's been reports that there's multiple people they're considering. There's like disagreement on from the coach to the GM on what exactly they're going to do. They say they're just glad to have things under their control. Everything that's been signaled is that they don't know yet.
I hope they trade down that's been rumored and they take Levis, and I see if you can rationalize it.
We're trading down to 4.
I guess it would depend on how much they got back for it. If it's some draft day shit, I mean, maybe they figure out that CJ Stroud had nobody come to his birthday party or whatever. But
they're thinking Vontae Mack with the first.
They will
pick.
not be trading down to 4. They'll be. I'd like Richardson or Stroud or Young, any of those guys. I'd be very happy, and I genuinely don't care which one they take. The only hang up I have is that with Richardson, people would be unbearable when they make that pick at 1. It would be I'd have to get off the app. It'd be ridiculous. I can't. I could hardly stand it when they made the trade. People are evil and vicious, and I need this to work.
I hope they don't take Richardson. The Cam Newton weight of the world on his shoulders would be so ridiculous, and it's like I like Richardson a lot. Like Cam, he's not Cam Newton, dude.
Well,
Cam
he is if he comes to the Panthers. Let me tell you, he is Cam Newton.
Yeah, that would be like if you want to get a quarterback that kind of has the same internet controversy as a guy like Tua. That's what's going to happen if you take Anthony Richardson number 1 overall. Every single interception he throws is going to get
except he won't throw
slammed
any
across social media.
They're not going to be 20 yards underthrown. At least I know that about Richardson.
Bang. Yeah, I think it's Stroud, and the more I think about Stroud, the higher I get on him a little bit. I think that I'm higher on him now than I was when I made my review on YouTube, him versus Young, because the Georgia game happened, and really I think that you can take a lot from that game. I really do. The fact that he needed to step up and he needed to play like that to have a chance against the best defense, in college football. And he went and he did it, and he created and he made things happen, and he was accurate and he was poised. And then after that, you look at some of the old games like versus Iowa or some of the other games. I can't remember exactly which ones, but the plays where he does use his legs, you're like, well, he is like maybe in a different situation under this. Yeah, he has it more than Goff does. Like, I really don't like that comparison. People are like, he's a lot like Goff.
It's gross.
And he's like, well, if Goff could move way better than Goff can move, and that's all of a sudden not Goff anymore. He does have a way higher ceiling than Goff. Like maybe Goff is the floor. I always use Geno as a comparison. And I know that Dak is a common comparison for like what his ceiling could be, like a pocket passer with a little bit of mobility and some crazy accuracy. Mine. Yeah. Dak's not a bad one either. I always kind of lean Geno with how accurate he is. And he, isn't super mobile at this point in his career, but like Goff can't deal with pressure at all. And I think that Stroud has a little bit more to him than that. So he is someone that is probably I think he's the number one in the odds, and he's got maybe not the highest ceiling because that's Richardson, and maybe not the, maybe the intangibles that a guy like Bryce Young has, the out of structure stuff, the floor maybe that Bryce Young has, but
the poise,
he's a good mix of all things. And I think that maybe he's the guy that they traded up to 1 for.
And I'd be happy with that. So
I assume you'd be happy with all but Levis.
If we traded up for 1 to get Levis, yeah, man, that'd be pretty. If I don't even hate Levis. I'm not even one of these people
rightfully
who's like,
unbearable people on the internet if that happens.
But he's terrible at handling pressure, and he's 24. Yeah, I don't think that's worth the number 1 overall pick. I think all the other guys, I'd take Levis somewhere in the first. I think if they had stuck at 9 and taken him, I would have gotten that. If they had moved up to like 4 and taken him, I would have gotten that. But no, I can't get behind Levis at 1.
I agree. Nico, do you have I don't know if you have this or are ready to say it yet, but do you have a ranking of the quarterbacks 1 through 4? Or is that top secret information?
Admittedly, no, I'm not like trying to make it this big reveal, but like I've mainly scouted Stroud and Richardson, and I do think that Stroud is going to end up being my QB1. I think, like you said, he's just the perfect mix of everything. There aren't too many question marks around him, and I think he does the most high-level stuff from the pocket most consistently out of everyone. So that's kind of my take. I really like Stroud right now.
The big question mark going into the Georgia game was, does he have that dog in him? And then,
he does.
And then he was like, you know what? I do have that dog in me. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fantastic game. And I think it's so interesting that all the prospects played like very well versus Georgia. That gets me really excited for the class overall. And Levis, I say that more from Levis last year. Levis this year versus Georgia was a little up and down. Last year versus Georgia, watch that game if you kind of want to get the hype on Levis. That was a really good performance.
This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class products rivaling tons of other brands that I've tried in the past. They have you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. If you lose or break your pair, even on day 1, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. And if for whatever reason you don't instantly fall in love like I did, just exchange your pair for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays because their team always has your back. But I think one of my favorite things about Shady Rays is their emphasis on giving back. To date, they've donated over 20 million meals to fight hunger with Feeding America. So with Shady Rays, you can look good and feel good knowing you're helping to make a difference. And now exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the new year. So go on over to shadyrays.com and use the code STAYHOT for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people and use Shady Rays, making an impact together. If you want to talk about some college basketball.
I have one more question.
Okay.
The Bears at number, what are they at now? 9?
9.
Who are we thinking? What position do you think they'll target now?
You just got to go best player available, I think. Right? Like, regardless of, like, if Carter magically falls to you, which is possible if he didn't interview well, he could fall to them at 9. You pick him, right? If it's, like, I don't even, if it's a corner, if it's like, if Witherspoon's number 1 on your board there. Or if it's Paris, like whoever is number 1 on your board at 9, that's who you're picking, I think.
I think it's best front 7 player available, honestly, because I feel like they have talent in the secondary, and I feel like the offense is in a pretty good spot right now. So I think they're just going to say, who do we have ranked on our big board between like Tyree Wilson, Lucas Van Ness, Nolan Smith? Like, who do we like the most out of those guys? I think that's who will be the pick.
Yeah, who was their leading sacker last year? I think it was Jaquan Brisker. I really think it was Jaquan Brisker last year.
Travis Gibson.
Was it actually?
I I think it was.
Oh boy,
I
know
like
it was a
to be-
safety.
You don't want to turn into the Lions, like, if you know what I mean, where you're just putting up 40 and giving up 41.
Yeah.
At least for the first part of the year, yeah. I mean, that was a bad defense.
The Bears, they have a ton of money too. I'm really interested to see the rest of their offseason. They're going to have a lot of hype going into next year.
Poles needed to do this, man. After the Claypool deal, like
Disaster.
you don't get
He
that
needed
many
this.
you don't get that many mistakes as a GM, really. And for him to, I think, get a satisfactory haul back for that number 1 overall pick, and I think Moore is such a good get. Like, he may not be but he's not on like a bad deal or anything, because in free agency, there is going to be a guy who probably gets signed at DJ Moore money in this free agency, and there's no one as good as DJ Moore, right? Like, he signed this deal a couple of years ago, so it's a pretty good deal for Moore, considering the current wide receiver market, which is a little crazy. Now you don't have to overpay on Alan Lazard. Like, you probably have to play like Jacoby Myers or Alan Lazard or or Adam Thielen, like somewhere maybe not close to this type of money, but the fact that deal was already done, instead of going out and having to overpay for free agency, because that's all you can do in free agency. All you can do is overpay. It's huge contracts for guys other teams didn't want. It is an inefficient way to sign players. You still have to do it, but it is an inefficient way to do it. So yeah, the fact that they don't have to really, the pressure is kind of off them to really hit there and find the underground, second contract to break out. It's not easy to do, but now they don't have to worry about it, at least at the wide receiver position. And that's the most important one for them right now.
Yeah, they could probably find some of these. It will depend, like what they do in the draft will depend a lot on what they do in free agency. If they go heavy on the front 7, then maybe they do focus, maybe on the offensive line.
That's true.
So,
I mean, yeah. Might look for a left tackle.
Enough about the Bears. I think it's time we talk some college basketball. Big thanks to our friends over at Run Your Pool for sponsoring this following segment and for sponsoring our bracket at play.runyourpool.com/stayhot. Run Your Pool is the home of competition, bringing sports fans and their friends together to connect and compete. With over 50 game types for every sport you can think of, Run Your Pool is the one-stop shop for sports gaming. With over 2 million players, there is no better place to run your bracket for your friends, family, or office. We partnered with Run Your Pool earlier in the year, or I guess last year, for a Survivor Challenge in the NFL. It was great. It's a super easy interface to use. You can spend 5 minutes throwing the black bracket together, or of course you could dive in for hours and make the whole thing just right. In fact, Run Your Pool is giving you guys the opportunity to compete against us in our very own Stay Hot March Madness Bracket Challenge. If you can prove that you know ball better than Stay Hot, Run Your Pool is giving away cash prizes to anyone who finishes in just the top 5. And as of right now, there's not that many people in it, so it won't be that hard to finish in the top 5. All you have to do is fill out your bracket for all 64 March Madness teams, and you earn points for every pick you get right. And the most important part, entry is completely free, so it costs nothing to join. Just head on over to play.runyourpool.com/stayhot to enter your picks when the bracket launches today, March 13th. Again, that's play.runyourpool.com/stayhot. Run Your Pool, the home of competition.
Nico, I see every single day you tweet out these are my predictions for the March Madness rankings, or for
every single day Arizona State was on the first 4 out. Answer for your crimes.
And then I finally budged this morning. I was like,
did you? Okay, all right.
Yeah, I gave them the nod.
The Sun Devils pitchfork
in my
this case.
very final update. I gave them the nod.
You escaped the clutches of THEO NFL today.
Yeah.
It was hitting the half-court buzzer beater should have been an automatic bid right then and there. Like, how are you going to keep them out? Like, clearly there's a higher power at work here. Who are you to say?
Clearly that's epic. So
that's the most magic I've ever seen it.
People are like, I saw on Twitter, people are like, I think it was OSU fans, Oregon State, who
Yeah.
They're probably Oregon State's probably right near where I am. But anyway, that's not important. They're like, oh, this proves that the selection committee is biased. It's like, did you hit a half court buzzer beater to hit Arizona? No. Well, then I don't want to hear it. I don't care who else you beat. It was the best highlight of the season, and we've got that in the trophy case. And
Your Honor, that was epic.
Your Honor, that was just too cool. How could you say it? Look at their face.
Epic.
Look at their face. That was too awesome to keep them out of the tournament. Like, how are you going to hit that and have it all be for nothing, right? Like, that would just be a travesty.
We need to start like evaluating the best dunking teams in terms of who we're letting into the tournament and the best. And the
whoever
teams
makes
that
the
have
best
won on the
Instagram
most game
highlights.
winners.
One auto bid
Yes.
for most liked Instagram highlight.
Oh my
On the
God.
March Madness Instagram, yeah.
One auto bid. Coolest hoop mixtape. If I was the committee, it would be Duke 1, UNC 1 every single year, just because they have the most hyped recruits and it would get the most eyes on the tournament. I would 100% be the rigging, the selection committee member. But anyway, how do you feel about ASU's chances for real? Because I don't actually know anything about them. Just that they hit that
I haven't
shot.
watched a ton of Arizona State basketball this year, admittedly, but I do think that they can win their playing game. I forget who they're playing.
It's Nevada.
Oh, it's Nevada.
We're not
Yeah,
losing
I think they can
It's
definitely
not
win
Nevada.
that. And then they would, yeah. I think Arizona State, I mean, honestly, they're a pretty solid defensive team. And those are they will at least make the games close that they play in. I will say that. And from there, you need some magic. And clear they have it after that buzzer beater.
They have it. Yeah. They have the momentum. Only real for one team, and that is the Sun Devils.
They are the only
But,
team where momentum exists in college basketball.
What are some of your I guess biggest things to watch out for in this tournament? Any Cinderellas or takes that maybe you feel the most confident in, whether that be this team is fraudulent or this team is, better than people expect or are going to surprise, just whatever you feel the most confident, or this is a player that you really like what takes are you maybe the most excited for or the storylines that you're most excited to see?
I will say this, there has been, I don't think there's ever been a more hyped up mid-major team throughout the season than Oral Roberts this year, coming off their crazy Cinderella run during the COVID tournament. And all of a sudden, they've got this gaudy record, and it gets everyone going because they've won like 20 straight games, and they still have Max Asmus. And it's like everyone's penciling them in months before the tournament as the Sweet 16 lock. Like, all the Instagram pages, and they'll post like their college basketball tier list. And like Oral Roberts is the only Cinderella team that was just getting love throughout the season. And now the bracket comes out, and they're playing Duke. So I think that is probably going to be the most, I guess, in terms of like internet narratives, that's probably going to be the most hyped up game because everyone's been talking about Oral Roberts all year. And now we're going to see who has the guts to actually pick them. And then we're also going to see if the people that just see Duke on their bracket and they're like, oh, it's Duke. Like, are they going to be proven right? So that's like the most polarizing game.
Duke has been on a good run recently, no?
They have, for sure. I mean, it's one of those teams with the freshmen, all the young recruits. You don't want to see them start to figure things out because that's when teams like Duke are going to get dangerous, is when all the freshman recruits start gelling together. And we saw that in the ACC tournament.
All I'll say about Oral Roberts is before the show, I was like putting together like a spreadsheet of all the teams in the tournament and like all of the major stats. And then I had them all sorted by like the average rank, like I do with like the average quarterback rankings thing. And Oral Roberts is number one. Their average now, given
what stats are you using?
What stats are you using, man?
I was just looking. It was just like the measures of stats.
What stat? I'm not trying to be a hater. What's like points and rebounds and assists?
So it's win-loss percentage, SRS, team points per game, opponents points per game, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, rebounds, free throw percentage, assists, steals, blocks, turnovers, and fouls.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
Roberts.
I kind of thought you were
That's
using
interesting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds actually kind of interesting. That Oral Roberts ranked.
You might be
I'm
on
not
to
saying that
something.
it's a methodology ever.
hold on. Hold on.
Hold on. Let him cook. Let him cook.
I will say that simple rating system, you could have stopped right there because that's the God stat, and Oral Roberts
Well,
is
okay,
sadly
they do not.
number
They do not. Yeah, they do not rank very.
Where can
high
I
in the simple rating
access that
system.
algorithm, by the way?
There-
Do I have to like
I'll look at that algorithm.
Yeah,
I'll post the spreadsheet later. Houston
Hold
ranks
on.
number 1 in simple rating system. So
You post that and Oral Roberts is number 1 on it. I think that you alone could have the power, or you make a TikTok on it that gets enough views. You alone could swing the amount of people who take Oral Roberts because everyone wants to pick them because they have.
And then if they
have the
win,
funny-
you can be
they have a
then you can-
recognizable
yeah.
and funny name. Like it would be
People
like
just
70%.
like that. They
Oral.
just that's
Yeah.
where the hype comes from. I wonder if we made up a stat and like we all really pushed as hard as we can, some like phony underdog team, how many people we could get to pick it.
I remember that Abilene Christian take from Theo a couple of tournaments
That's still all
ago.
simple rating system. That's simple rating system.
You're right.
It's the God stat, and it can't predict the winners or anything like that. But like, if there's an underdog that is like close to the favorite in simple rating system, take the underdog. Like it is going to work. I promise it is going to work. You can bet the young kids ages 0 through 17. Tell your parents
to put the mortgage
on the simple rating system bracket. That's what I'll be doing.
We're putting 5 units on Oral Roberts to make the Final Four.
Oh, 5? Yeah. We're more than 5.
I will say though, it's taking the average rank. Normally what you would like to see is like whoever's ranked number 1, you would like to see their average rank be close to 1, right? You don't, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
I see. I see what you mean.
The highest average rank, which is Oral Roberts, is 16.4. So there's a lot of variance.
Is Oral Roberts a fast-paced team?
Not
Yes, they're high in this. They're
Okay, yeah, they're 38th. They're
Favored
38th
teams
in the
that play at a
nation in
fast
tempo.
pace. Really?
They're
I
not
don't know
like
if that's
ridiculously fast, but
pretty
pretty
fast. How many teams does that consider in the nation then?
Like all 330.
Yeah, there's like
That's pretty fast. I'd say that
363.
things like points, rebounds, assists are favored mostly by just playing a
Yeah.
lot of possessions.
I mean, people love the teams.
Simple
that play
rating system
fast
is all
when it
you
comes
need.
to making their bracket.
Or here's my suggestion: do that by possession. There you
By
go. Then that
possession.
would take away all that.
if you,
And that'd be
yeah, I
interesting
mean, if
to
I
see.
can find, I'll just have to find total possessions, and I can just take the like that.
That is
divided
true.
by
That is
number
true.
of possessions.
They're 6th in adjusted tempo. They are 6th in the entire tournament in adjusted tempo.
Oh, in the entire tournament.
Behind Charleston, Memphis, Arizona, Southeast Missouri, and the fastest team in the tournament is Alabama, which seems to always be their like chuck up threes immediately. Always seems to be their thing. I don't know if
That's how
that's
they
still
are.
their thing, but okay, that's still how they
No,
are.
that's
also,
Nate- that's
I feel
the
like
Nate Oates
playing
kind of
fast
thing.
can be a good, like, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with playing fast. It's like, well,
Oh, there's nothing wrong with it.
they're only getting
It's-
a lot of points. 'Cause
Yeah, there's nothing
It's
wrong
just
with it.
volatile.
It just makes your statistical formula biased towards a certain playing style when a team that
Gotcha.
plays slow, simple rating,
You factor
simple
in
rating
turnover
solves
margin?
all these problems.
Okay. So we'll pull up simple rating system, and based on that, it's Houston, Bama, UCLA, Tennessee, Connecticut, Gonzaga, Arizona, and Kansas. Those are your top 8 teams.
Yes.
Yeah,
Just look
I
at
think
that.
those are some of the best teams.
Exactly. I mean,
Nico, you're a
From
Houston
that,
fan, right?
we can just conclude that Houston is winning it all. That's all we need to see.
I made
what makes-
so much money off Houston this year betting. Cincinnati was
Oh,
up
yeah.
like 7 against them. And I was
I
like,
remember that,
this is
yeah.
great. I bet like $100 on Houston plus 300 live line. And I was like, I either win this bet, which I will, or I'm saying something to Nico on Twitter. And Houston went on to win, so I had $300 and I didn't say anything.
I don't think
thought
our
about bringing
teams
it up
have
the
ever
other day
played,
when they
yeah.
played them again. Cincinnati played them again in the tournament, and then I decided
Not a good
against
idea.
it, and rightfully so.
Not a good idea. I would have dunked on you pretty badly considering we won by 20.
You would have been
Talk your
dunked
shit.
on
Get,
pretty
get his, get his dumb ass. What makes as someone who does not really like, we're just kind of guessing, and my college football takes usually just come from simple rating system when the tournament drops. But they're not a huge school, Houston, but they're always pretty good. What makes this team the best in the nation right now? I mean, who knows if they'll win the whole thing, but as of right now, every metric says they're number one. So why is that? Like, what players should I be watching out for?
I mean, I don't want to like give out the cliches, but they have a really good culture. And what I mean by that is they are very gritty defensively. They're like abnormally gritty for one of the top teams in the nation. And they rebound really well. And they have a really good experienced backcourt. Marcus Sasser is probably, if you want names, I'll tell you right now, Marcus Sasser. And one of the main storylines is that he hurt his groin in the Cincinnati game yesterday. So thanks a lot, Matt, by the way.
My fault.
But it's his fault. Absolutely. But yeah, I think with Houston, they do the little things that don't really pop out to the average viewer that might catch you off guard. The way they get tons of offensive rebounds and they play really good defense.
Sadly, that's not enough to win a championship. I'm picking. All that tells me is I'm picking them to get upset immediately.
Who is? There's some guy.
No, it's not like a Wisconsin thing last year where it's like
You're losing in Northern Kentucky.
all they do is just play good defense. They have no offensive bag whatsoever. They do have bucket getters. So
I'm trying to think of who killed us at the end of that game that we almost won, but for the life of me, I can't remember who it is. He's a real prospect too. They're talented. They're good for a reason. I think they lead. I know they don't play in
Pierce
the
Walker,
toughest conference. Yeah. I know they don't play in the toughest conference ever, but they have like the highest point differential by like 6 or 7 points. Their average point differential is like 20 a game or something. It's ridiculous.
Damn. I mean, they're number one in civil rating system, so I'm rocking with Houston.
all we need to see it.
That's all I need to see.
They passed the
they
THEO
passed that
out.
check.
If you can find the underdog Cinderella team that comes close to them, then you're allowed to pick against them, Theo.
Okay. I'll run that. I'll tweet that later, what we can learn from the simple rating system analysis. But were there any teams that you really felt got snubbed? I know that you had your list of the first 4 in and last 4 out, and I imagine it's not completely perfect. Were there any teams that you thought really should be in that didn't end up making it?
I didn't think they did anything egregious. Like, in terms of last year, I think everyone was justifiably very upset that Texas A&M didn't make it. I don't know if you guys remember that. But this year,
I do.
People were upset that they left out Rutgers. But I mean, Rutgers' best player got hurt, and they've looked pretty mid since then. And they lost a bunch of games, and they lost to Minnesota, and that's like that's the worst possible loss in the Big Ten. So they got left out.
Shout out.
And then obviously North Carolina has a big fan base, and they're always going to be pulling for them, even when they clearly don't deserve it. But no, I don't think there were any huge snubs. I will say that they kind of screwed Texas A&M this year again by like severely underseeding them and making them play Penn State, who's one of the hottest teams in the nation.
Yes, that's one of my big sleepers. They've got that Pickett. Yes, their guard,
Kenny
and he's
Pickett.
got like that jumper with hitch in it,
Kenny.
but it goes in anyway. He's awesome. I love him, man. I hope they win it all.
Jumper with a hitch in it. He's breaking every shot. Can't bet on a guy with a broken jumper.
It's really nasty too. It looks terrible, but it goes in, man. He's a baller.
He doesn't
you want
pass
a
the eye
team-
test. I'm upset.
Every year there are teams in the tournament that have like really like weird, unique players that their team is centered around. And that's like him. He's like this 6-foot guard that posts up every possession. So
yes. This is the one big advantage of college basketball is that the
you will
talent
see some
is
weird
worse.
stuff.
So you can see some wonkier players. There's no they're not allowing a hitch jumper point guard in the NBA. At least not for long. But
there's like. Yeah.
Or like the 7'4" guy who for Purdue.
Edey, exactly.
Yeah, he's awesome. But, I don't know if he's going to be a serious NBA player.
The greatest was when when Taco Fall was like a real like star that was like a huge problem.
Oh my gosh, that was wonderful.
that was just awesome. The best. I have a team that I like to make a pretty deep run.
Let's hear
maybe
it.
A Cinderella team. Again, the simple rating system. I'll get to run it by you, Nico. But Creighton is better than where they're seated. Creighton is better than where they're seated.
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah. I agree.
I don't know if that's a common take. I truly have no idea what the dialogue around college basketball is, but Creighton is better than Baylor. And, maybe for the hell of it coming out. But is that I don't know if that's a common take. Like, that
is a pretty common take. But like the thing with them is their center was hurt for like a month and he's really good. So all their metrics tanked. And now everyone's like, oh yeah, they're much better than all the stats and their resume that got them into the tournament indicate. So yeah. But are there any like deep mid majors that stand out to you looking at the simple ratings?
There is another one. Let's see.
I feel like
there
I'm
are.
Like read the Holy Grail.
I am. No, this is as bad as analysis as it gets.
Bro's like reading the Bible.
I feel like I'm
a box score watcher to an insane degree right now.
Hidden treasure.
Is Purdue a 1 seed?
They're a 2 seed.
Oh, they are a 2?
Oh, wait, no, they are 1 seed, my bad.
Yeah, they shouldn't be a 1 seed. Another one, let's see. Sadly, Miami of Florida, not that good. And Missouri.
Miami of Ohio, better.
Well, okay, explain this to me. Ohio State is ranked 41 in simple rating. Now, they won 3 conference games. So I'm doubting they had a losing record. They won as many conference
that's actually
games.
A thing, yeah. Ohio State was one of the most unlucky teams in the country in the regular season, and that's why their record got so bad. And so,
didn't they make like a weird amount of noise in the Big Ten tournament?
Yes. Yeah, that's
it was awesome
because the simple rating system. They were 41 in simple rating system. That's why.
And Cincinnati is also top 64. Yet neither of those teams got in. Why?
They got snubbed. That's all I could say. I think that to make the tournament,
if Cincinnati they could have easily won against Xavier and Houston, and they would be in. And they just didn't get it in either of those games. And now they're going to the Big 12, which is going to go badly. But
they could have just ran the American if they had stayed with Memphis. I mean, Memphis, you talk about a future dynasty. They are going to destroy everyone in the American in football and basketball, I think.
Well, Tulane was pretty good last year in football, though I question how long that will be true. Houston's been consistently better for a while.
And that's
it's all over.
Tulane should be the number 1 recruiting school in the nation because they play in their campuses in New Orleans, and New Orleans is sick. I would just take a stroll down Bourbon Street.
Your talents.
Yeah, and I would take my talents to New Orleans. So Tulane can keep it up. Tulane can keep it up. Be a college kid be a college athlete in New Orleans with
a college athlete.
Be a college athlete in New Orleans with a NIL deal. I'd take a damn good deal. But anyway, this is not about college basketball anymore. This is about New Orleans and how cool it is. But I don't know. I don't know. That's what I've got to say about the old simple rating system analysis.
Bro is writing simple rating system. This is crazy.
I am dick writing simple rating system. I don't even think my brackets have been that good to be completely honest with you, because as the tournament goes on, it gets harder because just all the good teams are there, and then it's like a guess. But it is good for finding upsets in I think like the first round and maybe a couple sleepers per year. But it's not going to like make your bracket like guaranteed good or anything, because then everyone would have a good bracket. Like eventually it just gets to the point where it's good number versus good number, and then sometimes
if there
the
was a
number wins.
surefire way to pick it, somebody would have found it by now.
Oh yeah.
I'll get on it.
My only lock upset is Furman over Virginia.
Yes.
Virginia is a
two
simple
reasons.
rating system fraud.
Well, so is Furman,
Yes.
I'm afraid, but we don't care. Virginia is always a fraud, actually, except for that 1 year. My mom is a
Did they
Virginia
win it
fan,
like
and I'm-
recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, except for that one. Didn't they also lose to a 16 seed like no
And
other one seed has
Ohio.
ever done? Yeah, this team blows it an unbelievable amount of times. They're always like a strong defensive team, and then somebody gets hot, and then it's all over. And Furman is
And they
one of
can't
the higher
shoot.
scoring teams, and they're very old, and they're one of the best scoring teams. I could see that being an upset. Plus, they're from South Carolina, so I like them.
Well,
I have
also
one more
Virginia is ranked 46th in the average stats, and Furman is ranked.
Yes,
Furman
this
is ranked 9th.
And look, I could be wrong about this. The odds of
Blaiden.
winning multiple games is
I question.
Blaiden, if you want to become,
Wait, go ahead, Nico. Then I have a question.
I was just
after-
gonna
after
say,
you pick.
like, Blaiden, if you really want to like get people going and develop a persona for March Madness, become like the Oral Roberts and Thurman Truver. Like,
Furman are sleepers for the national title, buddy.
I want to know. I've run
Just
the
like,
numbers. and
unironically-
Oral Roberts is
just go through your bracket and just like so casually predict Oral Roberts to make an ungodly run.
Pick all the one seeds in Oral Roberts to make it, man. Pick like chalk and Oral Roberts to make
And
it.
just like
Oral Roberts.
don't
is
make it a
chalky,
big
yeah.
deal whatsoever. Just and you will get the comments going. And then if they make a run, you will forever be known as the Oral Roberts.
Hey,
guy.
I got St. Peter's last year.
You did, yeah. He did get St. Peter's
He did?
last year.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Can we
St.
please get your
Peter's.
top 5 teams from this rating
That's what
system?
I'm asking. Like, I want to
The
know how
top
many
5?
mid-majors are in the top 10 here. Because I'm
I'll
guessing
give you
it's
the top
like
10. The top
They're
10.
playing events. They're boosting their numbers against plumbers. That's what's going on here.
So in order 1 to 10, Oral Roberts, Gonzaga, Xavier, Houston, Arizona, Creighton, Utah State, Bama, Furman, and Miami, Florida.
Oh, so you two would like to
it changes everything. He goes like, hold on.
I mean, Miami and Houston, the top 10. I mean, it's a shame they can only meet in the Sweet 16. It's a shame.
Damn shame.
Not a fan
I guess I don't have any take on it. I will
Oral
say,
Roberts
here's
is
my
gonna
other
beat
lock.
Houston.
Gonzaga is going to be an early exit like they always are. I hate that team more than any other. Every time I don't pay attention to them except for March Madness. And every time I look at the bracket, there they are, like the number 1 or 2 seed. I don't know what seed they are this year even, but
They're 3.
there they
yeah.
are. And they're 3. Oh, a 3 seed. They could make a serious run this year. Not. They get, I swear, the last 2 years, they've been like a 1 seed each time. And people were like, this year, the first year, people were like, Gonzaga has a great chance this year, like a fantastic chance. And I was like, they play literal like California coastal schools, like exclusively. And then they get to the tournament. It's like, you just are not used to playing that level of competition. Like you just cannot win 8 in a row or whatever you need to win against like real schools when you're just used to. This is why Houston's getting eliminated too, Nico, just so you know. It's just like these mid-major schools are not winning shit. I'm sorry. They're not winning like 8 in a row against like the Dukes of the world. Like Duke knows what
Once
like.
I adjust for possessions, we'll see who the real victors are.
But anyway, at any rate, Gonzaga, and then the next year they were back and they were like, oh, this team is way better than the team even last year. And then they lost like even earlier. It's like, shit, guys. My entire
the best
life, they're a
team
top
ever.
3 seed. Was it last year?
Yeah, no, I was saying how the COVID tournament, they made it to the national championship, and then Baylor just blasted them. And then last year they lost to Arkansas in the Sweet 16. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and
So I probably wouldn't
they're
bet-
losing even
yeah.
earlier than that.
I will say this.
chart,
Yeah.
If you chart
Arizona-
national championship Sweet 16, they're just on a very much a downward trend based on the last 2 years. But what are you saying?
I was saying that Arizona State has a chance to play them very early on. So if you want to get people going to be like a raging, like we're beating Gonzaga type of thing.
We are. It's happening.
There you go.
It's all led up to this moment.
It's all led up to the pinnacle of life, which is Arizona State Sweet 16 run.
Me and who's the kid that always, there's a Twitter account that always replies to me that's a big Gonzaga fan. I think it's Isaac.
Isaac MR.
He's a big Gonzaga fan. And if I'm that guy specifically, I'm singling out and yelling at. He's the only Gonzaga fan I know, but I'm going to make his life specifically hell.
You are going to have
if this happens. I'm going to have him in the torture chamber, and then they're going to lose because they always lose. But yes.
Do we have anything else? Do we want to pick our champions and then get out?
I guess we have to pick our champions. I got to go with Oral Roberts for now.
There we go.
They're number one in your stat. Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. We'll see if it changes once I make the adjustments. But for now, they're number one. Number one always wins.
Number one. If Oral Roberts beat Houston in the national championship in Houston, you would never hear from me again.
He said he'd never hear from me again.
I will disappear.
You got Oral Roberts. I'll say UCLA just because take a shot every time I say simple rating system in this episode. They rank highly on that. They're from the Pac-12 and Alabama's above them, and karma is going to come back and refuse to let Alabama win the national title. So they're next up. So I'll take UCLA.
I'll take Alabama. I kind of think that they're pretty stacked. They're one of the best teams, and I think Brandon Miller's really, really good, all things considered.
I'll go with Houston.
I'm not picking. I won't pick Houston because.
Houston will not be the overwhelming favorite. People will be very hesitant, even though they're the number one team in every metric. It's going to be like Gonzaga last year.
I think that's just bad mojo. I think that's not good, actually, to be number one in every metric. All of them agree unanimously. That's asking to be upset, I'm afraid.
As long as we don't
you want to be number two.
That's fair. That's fair. I just think if we get to the Final Four in Houston, that would be huge.
That's pretty.
When is the last time we've seen a college team play in the Final Four in their actual town?
If you told me it never happened, I'd believe it.
I don't think it's ever happened. So yeah, that'd be
especially
really cool.
Since some teams play in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
So it's not even like the NFL where every team has a stadium that hypothetically could host the Super Bowl. That's not the case for Oral Roberts or Gonzaga.
No, hold on.
when is the Oxford? Yeah.
The Final Four is coming to. Where is Oral Roberts located?
I have no idea.
The Final Four is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
The Final Four will not be going to Tulsa, Oklahoma anytime soon.
It'll be coming to Oxford, Ohio.
They're gonna have to play outside of the park if they go there, man.
No, we got the rec center. You got the rec center, man.
Miami of Ohio.
We will be playing it in Blaiden's driveway.
I don't even have a driveway.
Half court.
Playing in the parking lot.
The mini hoop behind him on his door.
Yeah, the retractable hoop.
Oh man. Yeah, but I don't have anything else.
Let's get out of here.
I'm going to send the good people home. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Nico, for once again joining us. It's been too long. Hope to have you back soon. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, Lemon Boy, the Stay Hot crew, we will catch you all on the Flippity Flop.